Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, everybody. 10 o'clock a.m. It's the board meeting for the compensation, setting of county compensation. We will go over this, try to get it hammered out today so everybody knows what's going on and everything. So, Steve, do you want to start off with anything?
Yeah, so a couple of weeks ago, I made a proposal of where we would be. I think we had all talked about an overall 3% increase for salaries for this coming year, and that included the 2.49 CPI that we had gotten from Paul. So that would give a discretionary amount of 0.51 to each of the elected officials and to the department heads to utilize at their discretion on their salaried employees based off of what we've seen or what they've done with their evaluations that Paul had taken a look at. So again, those are merit type increases, and it's discretionary to the manager's approval and support. I think we had some exceptions that we had talked about that as well. The other part of that I want to mention is when you look at what we've seen in base camp, for example, you know, we've had lots of feedback from folks in base camp talking about supervisors and what they're doing for raises over this coming year. And I would say that 90% of what I've read through base camp and the counties that we are familiar with and associated with are all at that 3.3% level when it comes to compensation for this coming year for employees and elected officials. So I think the proposal of 3% is consistent there. And with our neighboring counties, we're pretty close. I think we're a little higher than maybe Van Buren. But we're really in the same ballpark as every other county that we have talked about or looked at on base camp. Mark, any thoughts or input?
Yes, I do have. I concur with what you're saying entirely. I look at first of all, why we did the compensation study.
Right.
And there's always some discussion that the county was being treated too fairly from the benefit package. And that was a lot of discussion over the last number of years I've heard. And I like the idea that we have brought everybody into what I consider a very equal pay compared to the private and the public sector working together. And I think I do not want to go backwards at all and anywhere. I think we have some couple of issues that I would like to work through. And number one would be looking at a broad brush thing. I would still take exception on a couple. I think that the assessor is one, and Jake, you are another one, because on your old contract said we need to look at your salary on an annual basis. And I think that is the job of a supervisor, being with you and to go up on your salary. So those, and otherwise, I understand the CPI, and I like the idea that we give a grand total of 3% to each department, and I think that all elected officials should get the minimum of 3%, and all employees. I'm wondering for the future if that is the way to go. I question that for the years to come, because I don't know if we'll need to be looking at with the elected officials, seeing if they are getting what they need to be fair for the future. And so there's the way I'm looking at it right then. So.
I guess I kind of echo when we started taking on the salary survey and the study and everything, it was mentioned that we might have to bite the bullet and pay somebody up a little bit, and the same thing with not pay down or deduct down, but put at a pause so some of them get caught back up and things like that. So I think that is a good fair way of doing it. It gets equalization out, you know, in those disciplines type thing. When you talk about people's pay, it's always difficult, you know, when you talk about that. But, I think we live in Cornfield County, we live in Henry County here. It's a rural area. I think our pay bases are fair. I think they're doable. You know, you won't get rich working in county government or government as a whole. You won't get rich, but it's a good fair living, I think so. 3%, as Steve said, that's kind of the common ground between a lot of the area. I know Washington is doing a goose egg, I believe.
Sure, that's correct.
In general. So we were there 2 years ago and we did a 0. So yeah, it's hard to talk about that, but that's what it is. And I think 3%'s a good route to go. That 2.49 and that 51.51 doesn't seem like a whole lot to be discretionary spending around, but I guess we gotta draw the limits there somewhere.
We have talked about this and discussed this for a long time, and I think it's time to move off the table what we need to be doing. And the way I read the agenda is I think we can make a motion for that to start being worked on as our final. And I will make a motion that we give each department a 3% raise, discretionary money, and all elected officials a 3%. And that the exception would be, we've discussed the sheriffs. And I think as the contract reads, we need to discuss with Jake his salary raise. And I think that the chairman will need to discuss that with him, and then we'll work on that one within the next week. And that would be my recommendation.
Well, I'll second that with some more discussion.
Okay.
So the original, just so we're articulate in what we're saying here. So the total payroll budget for each department will increase by 3%. Of this amount, 2.49% will be applied across the board to all eligible at-will employees as a cost of living adjustment. That also keeps us in line with the pay grade and the bands that were set up that we're all working with. The remaining 5.51% will be available to elected officials and department head to recognize employees who demonstrate strong performance as reflected in their evaluations. This approach ensures that all employees receive a cost of living adjustment while also providing an adjustment and an opportunity of incentive and acknowledging their high levels of performance within each budget, consistent with the overall 3% payroll increase by the approved by the Board of Supervisors. Originally, I had talked about 3 exceptions, so I think we need to discuss that just a little bit to make sure. Mark mentioned the sheriff going to 10%, which I think we're all in line with. We also talked about Tyler Freeze upping his salary to 5% because the adjustment in his overall job description, which is going through the process as we see it right now. And then my original proposal was the 3rd exception was the auditor at 2.49% only as a cost of living increase. More than happy to get into the details if you guys want to do that. But that was the original proposal, and that's what we'd originally talked about, which is a little bit different than what you had just said, Mark, in the motion.
Correct. My motion should have included Tyler at that 5%.
Yeah, that's fine. So my proposal would be to amend your motion by those 2 exceptions. We talked about the sheriff, but the other exception was Tyler Freeze at 5%, and the other exception would be the auditor at 2.49% only.
With the auditor, that department would still have the 0.51 to be able to disperse as needed.
Correct. Yep. at her discretion to the employees, but not to herself.
So really, that's no different than the treasurer's office or other getting the 2.49 and that 5.1 as a discretionary.
Yeah, that's all the same.
Yep.
With the exception of those other individuals who were getting the 0.51. Elected officials and department heads. So 3 exceptions to the overall 3%.
Okay, got the notes taken down, right?
Okay.
Anything further discussion on that? Ready for a vote?
No, you have to have a second to the amendment.
I stand correct. Is there a second to the amendment there? The amendment would include Tyler, 5%, and the sheriff, 10%, and auditor, 2.49, cost of living. So, is there a second?
I made the motion, so I can't second.
Right.
It's up to you two.
The way I'm looking at this, and I wanna make sure I understand it right. The auditor is at 2.49%. Will receive a 2.49%.
That is correct, which is part of the pay band, so the pay band will stay even,
Yep.
won't lose any ground.
The treasurer will receive 2.49.
No, the treasurer,
Will
the recorder,
be at 3.
everyone else is at 3 with those 3 exceptions.
I understand some of that 0.51 difference. I have a hard time with that a little bit. I without getting into it a whole lot, I see it, but it almost, I almost take it as a punitive type thing, and,
That's one way to look at it. You could also look at it from a performance.
yeah.
I realize these are elected officials, they're independent, but again, our only avenue of making sure that people work with us is to make sure that we all understand that it has to be a mutually inclusive environment.
Is there a way of offering a remedy to that, whether that be training, services, anything of that nature?
Training of what, may I ask? Because I go to every training that's offered.
Anything, I mean.
I'm asking, I don't know.
Well, is there any training that is not gone to that you would like to, that would make make the job better, or anything of that nature?
My job better. I mean, doing what I was trained by the former auditors. So I'm wondering what's up with the 2.49. And what training do you want me to take? I go to ISAC, I go to the auditors meetings, I go to all of them. I have to miss the one up in in Ottumwa for the security of elections because we have a special, and my whole staff needs to go.
When I say training, is there anything in addition that's available that's not going? I think I'm being pretty
confused
plain, aren't
because
I?
I go to all of
I'd
them.
be more than happy to interject here. I think it's communication, it's interaction. I think those things could use.
Communication as in, can I ask?
Extremely, communication as in, perfect example today would be, you guys' budget is due at 9 a.m. on Tuesday mornings. That's,
What do you, budget?
or
There was
your
no
agenda, I'm
budget.
sorry.
Agenda.
Your agenda
It
is due at
is.
9
It
a.m.
always has been.
Well, again, that's the supervisor's meeting, that's the supervisor's agenda.
Then
That's-
make sure
as
that
the
agenda's
secretary
done.
to the board,
Excuse
you
me,
don't get to
excuse me.
set.
Okay.
We could discuss this on
limitations.
another agenda item if you would
Well,
like, cause that's the
You
law.
asked for, we're talking communication.
That's the law.
Don't put your hand up to me.
Okay,
Put yours down.
okay, I
I'm
think this
talking to Chad
is,
here.
Okay, no.
this is on the verge of getting into the personnel type of issues and everything
It
like
is,
that.
But that's exactly what it's addressing.
I guess I don't have a lot of experience in how to do this. How do we proceed forward on this?
Well, if you don't wanna second the motion, that's fine, it'll die, but
It's
If
just,
you're gonna go into discussing personnel, you'd have to give her the option of a closed session, and that's not on the agenda, so that has to be at another date. Otherwise, we just go ahead and go on with what we're, which is on our agenda to figure out what our raises are gonna be. And so, maybe we won't get it done today, if that's the case. So,
to your point, we did give the option, 2 weeks ago, closed session, if that was required or requested. We can still do that.
I have to know today to prove or not. I do. I have to know today on what you guys wanna do for the salaries. Because I have a deadline that has to be met by the end of this week to the state of Iowa. Which was also one of my trainings that I took.
I don't wanna say anything more without going into that closed session type thing.
so are you letting it die?
Yes.
Okay. And I'll amend my, motion to create, 5% for Tyler Freeze.
So the amended motion is sheriff 10%, Tyler 5%, auditor would be the 3%,
All elected officials.
all elected officials.
And department heads too, right?
We're still back on that. I think there's some elephants in the room that we need to talk about. So, I think that motion, if there's a second on the amendment,
Not for me.
no? We need to talk about it more, so. Do,
Is the motion dying then?
I think that motion died right now, so. Do we schedule how do we do that? I mean, with further discussion, if we offer a closed session, we don't have to. I mean, I don't like throwing people out to the wolves.
I think that you need legal counsel on this one.
We can do a recess for 5 minutes.
Okay.
5:05.
You're gonna be like the number one person, and I do not wanna be videoed. Conversation.
It goes by the law, Kelly.
I
And there's nothing,
understand, but there's
nothing
gotta be a
preventing these
cap.
gentlemen there's
from
gotta
giving
be a
you an
cap.
equivalent raise.
And they're not.
That's their choice.
And, you know.
I'm
that
saying
comes-
this is the law, and it has not been placed in effect in 4 years. Last year was the first year that they even addressed it.
When does it stop?
When I get to where I'm supposed to be,
Which is
Kelly.
what?
It's right in the law, equivalent to chiefs of police with similar population, and the directors of the let me finish.
North Liberty.
The directors of the DCI and the state patrol. It is North Liberty and Altoona.
No, it's dropped. Our population has dropped and theirs have gone up. It's no longer them.
ISAC and ISSDA check it every year, and I don't have that report with me, but it was done
So
in September.
Okay, so from my point of view, the conversation was, am I not valued?
I don't think that's the case at all.
Because
And like I
you're
said,
getting 10,
there's nothing to say
Tyler's
they
getting
can't.
5, Nathan and Peter getting 5,
Right,
your chief deputy's getting 10.
right. Because the
knows what
lawmaker
Jake's gonna
said it
get?
has to be.
But
Period.
There's gotta be an even ground, and there's not, when you've got all these different boards
I
putting
would
in
say
there.
talk to your lobbyists, because the sheriffs and deputies lobbyists worked with the legislators and got this law passed 4 years ago, and it's not been addressed yet, until last year. So if you wanna talk numbers, I can talk numbers. 4 years ago, this was supposed to be placed into effect. Our county has not done anything till last year. The amount of dollars skipped for me is $200,000. So that's my perspective is, I'm the sheriff of the county and we're out of compliance with the law. The chairman of the board 2 months ago said he wants to be in compliance with laws. Until the attorney general made an opinion, we were not going to do anything. 2 years ago, the compensation board could be dissolved or kept. Our supervisors chose to keep it. The law changed the same year to say if they didn't agree with the compensation board, they can alter it for every one of us elected officials. If they felt the treasurer was out of line, they could give you a 30% raise if they felt it was necessary. That 2 years it's been in effect and they haven't addressed it. You know, I was chastised last week for saying ignored, so I'm trying to use the words different than ignored. But quite frankly, it's been ignored for 4 years on this Back the Blue law, 331-907. It's been ignored. I'm the sheriff of the county. If somebody murders somebody in Henry County, I am not going to ignore it. If somebody has window tint on their car, I'm not going to ignore it. So why would I ignore any other law? We're following House File 718 precisely. They want us to cut. I cut 4 people. What other elected official or department head cut 4 people? 4 people. How many?
Take your percentages on that.
Okay, do the percentage. I cut 10% of my people.
I'm not saying that you are underpaid by any means.
I'm not
just
either.
saying that it's not fair.
I
that you
understand
don't take
that.
any of the other electeds into account.
I understand it
It's not
completely.
all about Rich.
I
And that's the
don't
way-
think it is
That's
either,
the way it
Kelly.
makes it feel, is it's all about Rich and what Rich is
Well,
gonna get paid.
For 4 years, it's been ignored, so it's not all about Rich. You know,
When you take home $6,000 a month, you're getting paid pretty damn well.
I don't disagree. I get paid very well. And my conversation with Mr. Dietrich when I talked to him about this was simply that we're ignoring the law. I love my salary. I didn't say, hey, give me the raise that's due according to the law, because that'd be 50%, Kelly. I don't want a 50% raise. I think it's wrong.
That was my original question, where is the cap? Where would you, if we did not have the compensation board in play?
It's still
They
the
put the
law.
10%
The
cap on
cap
there.
is being equivalent to the DCI, the state patrol, and the police chiefs of similar population. It's black and white in the code. So it's a variable. It doesn't stay the same every year. It's whatever that equation equates to. It's in the law, 331-907. So I don't have any beef if they come through and say, Kelly Sloan deserves a 20% raise. That's between you and them.
I don't even think I deserve 20% right.
I'm just making an
My
example.
county
I'm
and
just
my
making an
office kid
example.
Accept it.
I think it's offensive that at all these meetings, it's all about Rich. It's not. I just want us to come into compliance with the law, period. It's not about my salary, because I have a very generous salary. I'm proud of it. But we're out of compliance with the law.
So I think to answer another question is, when does it stop? Well, if you look at this chart, if we're negative on income, to revenue, to expenses, that's when it stops. If we don't have any money, we can't be spending money. Whether those numbers are right or wrong, you agree with them or not, those are the representations and the numbers that came through the office. So if we're in a negative, you sure as the heck shouldn't be giving people raises, because now you're just operating in a deficit or using up all of your reserves, and then you're in trouble in the long run. So you just can't do that. So when we start looking at that, you can see we've been in that position 2 years ago. So that's where the line should be. If you're not making money, private enterprise wouldn't do that. I realize this is government. In the real world, if you're not making money, you shouldn't be spending money. That's just the way it is.
Are there also 2 counties that lost lawsuits that were sued by the sheriffs, correct?
There is.
Yep.
And I think there's counties that are suing the legislature for making the black blue law. I mean, you can sue, everybody can sue, whoever they want to.
That is true. Wayne and Ringgold counties did go to court, they lost, and now they're told to get into compliance with the file, so that's what we're trying to do, so we don't spend more money on a lawsuit that we really don't wanna do, first of all, and secondly, shouldn't be expending taxpayer money when the law reads that. And unfortunately, life's not fair, right?
Hell, it is very real. Correct.
That's what I was thinking. All the men got raised, big ones. But the women didn't.
Well, the one female sheriff in Iowa that is on board is in compliance with Back to Blue.
What county is
I
that?
meant
I
you.
don't know.
Adair, I believe.
Okay.
I'm not positive. I think it's either Adair or Sac, maybe.
Down in the southeast, or southwest.
Yeah. It's in the west, anyway.
I have not asked for anything different, so this is the first time that you made a comment about reviewing my contract. I have nothing in it for a dog into it.
I know.
I don't feel like, I think these issues that we're talking about, it comes down to cost of living, is what we talked about. We made this, you guys, the board made a decision to look at the compensation schedule and to utilize that. That's what I budgeted based off of that, the numbers that you're giving us, that cost of living. I think we get hung up on raises. Obviously, Rich is different, and that's because you guys are looking at that from a different angle, and that's a different issue. But every year that we have talked about raises, that word raises, I think, is not necessarily the correct term. I think cost of living is what we're really talking about. And historically, we have been anywhere since I've been here from 0 to 5%, and that's been 13 years. That's been the focus of what we're looking at. The compensation schedule is to look at whether or not we're paid appropriately within our table, and that's where every department has to look at that and make their claim on where they want to move people. It's more difficult for some departments to do it because of what they have to do, but I think after this budget cycle, that's the key, is to work in the off season to figure out what the department needs to do to run. And today we're talking about, I feel like we're gonna hold the budget potentially up on a very small dollar amount on one department. I almost feel like that should not be the reason we don't make a decision today. It should be that 3%, 249.51, move us on, because we're talking about an X amount of dollars that holds up the process to when we're trying to get going. So I'll be done, I guess, but I did not ask for anything extra or anything
But
different.
I'm just saying our contract with you said we need to look at you every year. That's what I was saying.
Yep, I appreciate that.
That's a long conversation.
Longer than 5 minutes, I realize that, but we were at a motion, Mark made a motion to accept the 3% to each department. With Tyler 5%, auditor, all elected officials,
That was the amended
3%.
one.
That was yours.
The amended.
As amended, we were waiting on a second. Is there a second? I will second that. Is there any further discussion on that? No. Everybody in favor of Mark's motion indicate by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
Motion passed. Next issue. I understand there was discussion when I was gone.
We have to actually vote on the original that we amended to be proper.
Okay.
Which was everything except for Tyler, what it amounted to.
Okay. Well, I wrote that motion as 3% to each department. Sheriff 10%, Tyler 5%, auditor and all elected officials at the 3%. Was there more to?
Department heads.
Yeah. Is there further on that? You said we need to vote on that one? Yeah. Is everybody clear on what we're voting on?
Yes.
Everybody in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
No.
That motion did carry. So, in my absence there for a few minutes, what was the discussion in a nutshell?
In a nutshell, basically conversation between the treasurer and the sheriff and talking about raises and 10% versus 3%. In a nutshell.
And then also talking to the sheriff about his spreadsheet that we wanna talk over yet today.
Okay. What is the next item of business that we need to address right now?
Was it our, let's say,
Well,
that's it.
that's
To
it.
the,
on the agenda.
to the compensation board, what you guys are planning here. So the 2 deputies in my office are gonna just be bumped up. Just fair say, because I can do that for the 70%. It was already listed on the budget that you guys have in your hands. And, they all decided that they would take their 51 and hand it over to, the 0.51 hand it over to Nandra. And I'm in agreement with that, to bump her. Okay?
That's within your office?
Yes, that's only within my office.
On our discussion day, can we vote on the budget that we presented, or there is still some discussion with the conservation department?
Yes, there is. But Chad had some conversations.
Yeah, I did, reach out. Monday, I stopped down at Butch McKay's house and we sat and talked things over. We talked about, a tractor. The overall budget was the topic. We talked about tractor, whether the proper, features of a tractor have been considered, the weight class of a tractor, the cost of the tractor, everything like that was talked about. The discussion with secondary roads, potentially having a tractor that could meet their service needs in the future sometime was talked about. And I think there were some, oh yeah, that's a good point, you know, some more things that were brought to light that they want to check into. Governmental discounts that were available on, regardless of what color tractor it is. You know, there's governmental discounts that are available that we need to look into to get the best bang for our buck. We talked about the maintenance of the nature center. The building's not in very good shape. What funds could be utilized for those that are already within the conservation budget? Can land acquisition funds be used for that? can capital improvements be used for? Yeah, they could be, but I'm wondering if the land acquisition, I mean, it doesn't make more sense trying to buy more land if you can't take care of what is already there. So need to figure out how all that is utilized and what's available there. We talked about their need for, or they want to build a new building at Catch and Switch. Buildings are expensive. You build them up. I made a recommendation or at least a suggestion to look at maybe a shipping container. There's some new architecture design utilizing a shipping container sitting on a foundation with a truss roof type over it, and utilizing that way you would have some lockable storage and a parking area under roof, and things like that. Might be a economical way of getting a shed built, that type of thing. We talked about fencing, and specifically the fencing that was down at the Gibson Recreation Park, with the landowner there on fencing. There's been some pictures. Mr. McKay gave me some pictures of some clearing that had been done. I got them here in my pile here somewhere, I'll share with you. Where the landowner had done some clearing already. Talking about like a very wide setback from the fence. I think with it, in my mind, it's not reasonable to clear that much ground just for the fence. And then implementing a line item for fencing that conservation could plug some money into on a yearly basis, build that fund up so when a fencing need comes up, there's some money there to work with. And everything was well received. I mean, it was some new thoughts and I think they'll probably look at that, put that into play in there, so.
Was any of the discussion towards the sale of the trees that they'll be harvesting?
Yep.
And what the use?
That was another, I'd suggested that sooner than later, we get with a timber buyer, a timber harvest buyer type thing, and get an idea of what the value of harvestable timber on the county conservation grounds would be, because I think it might be a larger chunk of money than what maybe initially realized. The price of standing timber is pretty good, lumber, logs, and things like that. So he was in agreement. They'll work on that. The chairman of the board said we'll get working on that, both at Tick Ridge and the ITC area. Those are areas, and maybe at Hoagland Woods or something. Who knows where? I mean, if there's a harvestable saw log there, and we can utilize that, I mean, for the benefit of the growth of that timber, I mean, I think we ought to do it. So.
Yeah, I would agree. I think back to Mark's original question as well. You and I talked about this in detail. So that budget that was submitted by the conservation folks was $149,000 more than last year, which is about a 33%. Robin, do you know, did he submit any changes to you that after those
Didn't
conversations?
submit any changes. What I did is I took off what you guys asked me to take off, and that's off the budget right now until I know anything different. Down the road, if you guys decide you're gonna go with this budget, and if we have to make amendments down the road, then we have to make amendments.
But yeah, they were gonna try to do some of this timber buying in short order, so we get some things going.
Yeah,
quick.
they need to.
But overall, I think my talk with Butch was good. We talked about the need to avoid personality clashes and everything like that. Everybody needs to remain calm and professional on both sides, and that was agreed upon too.
Robin, can you share your new numbers on the conservation folks with us? what you might have put into your budget system at some point?
I just took off what I have now. I have nothing else in until
Okay.
I went back to, after that conversation, alls I took was that tractor off. Cause I was confused on where else you were at to
Well,
take
you
it
probably
off.
took his
So
salaries back to the originals, right?
I did that before we
Before.
even decided. You told me you wanted it back to the original,
Right.
and so I did so. But I'll print off the entire budget for you when I get done putting everything in, so you can look and see what's been done.
What do you think on that, Marcus?
Yeah, I just would like to know, other than that tractor, I never saw anything that was,
The tractor's the only thing I took off, but I did show that it was like $25,000 that was in that account already. So I didn't put another dollar amount in, but last year there was $25,000 in that account, and the years before there was also an amount before.
did you take off,
I'm trying to find where it's at. here.
on page
Like page
three, that, building at Ketchum? On page 4, or no, page 3,
On his
Page
budget,
three.
on,
Towards the bottom of the sheet, it's a $40,000 number.
40,000.
Like third one from the bottom on page 3.
It's under,
right there, that $48,000, I did take off.
no, this is 40.
But then you're talking about,
This one here. Kitchen switch building.
oh, right here. I left it, cause I didn't know what you guys wanted to do. I was confused on it. But if you look there, he already had $5,000 in it, but I don't know, and he spent up to $810 from a little bit, probably just a small repair on something. So, and I feel uncomfortable talking about it without him, because I don't know exactly what he used the $810 or
Yeah, that's
whatever, but it is 40,000. What do you guys wanna do there?
My thought process is.
Which is, I thought it was a good idea what he brought up.
Was remove the tractor and this shed, because they mentioned that they were very willing to use their timber sales for improvements and everything. And, so, with that, I'm just trying to figure out, that's the only other thing we have to work on our budget.
Okay.
I'm trying to finalize it today so that we can go.
So we can move forward, because I
move
have to
forward.
send the,
Yeah, I mean, I think that with our work, with what Chad has done and our other conversations with, our conservation board, that they're willing to work with us, with no problem with this timber sale. They understood from the very commence, when TCI came in with that proposal, that we were gonna give them that money and let them use it discretionary for their improvements.
Right, that's correct. That was the conversation.
so, I'm sorry, can you go back to that tractor spot again? Because if you look in the past, we haven't used anything out of that fund, but this year he did use $25,949, this was at the month of December. So, do you want me to leave $25,000 in it or nothing? Because you asked me to remove the 48,000.
I think there's also motor vehicles and everything else.
Yeah, so I think
You
we,
have to leave something in there for him.
yeah, and it looks like he overused a little bit, but that's okay, cause his bottom dollar would still be good, so
Be-
25,000 maybe?
Because that skid loader had some major repairs,
Yeah,
that was
and
part
maybe
of
it won't
it.
be so much this next one.
But if there's future repairs needed, there has to be some funding to take care of them, so.
So do you want me to put $25,000 back in on that? Or 20,
I'd put 25 because
right,
he's used
that's what I'm saying.
more than that in 3
You
years.
guys told me to remove it, I was like, Are you all good with that?
Yes.
Mhm. And then remove the 40,000 from the shed.
Okay. Which is on that one page right here.
Right.
Shed at Ketchum.
You know, if they build a shed, I mean, there'd be some expense to it, but.
Sure.
I feel pretty certain you could do it less than 40.
Okay. Does that get us where we need to be?
Yeah, I believe so.
And so I'll reprint out all these sheets after I put everything all in, so you can go back and take a look and see what the dollar amounts are, and you keep them for your records.
But when do you need this to go
This week, I gotta do it this week. By Friday, I have to upload to the state.
And maybe it was already addressed, Kelly, you needed some chairs because of the chairs, stools were all junk. Is there money in your,
No, I didn't put any extra money in my budget for any of that. I left that out as an extra expense. So I brought this up one other time with you guys about the ARPA money, and I know that it's spent down, but there's a balance there, and the balance is there because of the interest. So there's over $100,000 sitting there in the ARPA funds yet. Just throwing that up.
And as we're working on those receipts right now, because that's what Amanda's doing right now, is putting all those receipts done within this last fiscal year, so we can get them. Well, the spreadsheet's almost done, but it's just, it goes straight to Lori Giplin and I'm not exactly sure if that's her name, Lori Giplin or whatever, and then Susan Coffey over there, Southeast Iowa Financial Planning, that takes care of that reporting.
Because those balances should be all zero except for the $100,000.
Not all of them are zero, huh? Here's the thing, not everybody used up to what they were.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and we can't do anything about that yet, so they're checking on, what do we do if there's money left over?
Send it back.
From the original 461 or whatever it was.
Yeah,
And see, and then what's after that is the interest.
but what we did on a MOU, or what you guys did and agreed on, the last full board before Steve agreed on the MOU, because it had to be all allocated by
Now,
the,
last year.
yeah,
December
of
31, 2025.
Yeah, 25, they had to all be allocated, but somebody put in their, resolution that this is for like, cause we had to buy the AS 400, that's still sitting upstairs that we gotta get in before March-ish, which is now,
That's coming up in the next 2 weeks,
yeah,
right?
next 2 weeks. But, it was lesser than what he thought it was, and I was told that. So he has a little bit left over, so, but on that resolution, it did say that it was for anything extra of IT of that nature to get that up and going. So that's what we should do probably in the future if we ever get something.
So Chad and Kelly, you two know more about ARPA than the rest of us. The interest money does not have the same rules as the other.
I don't think so.
that's
I
my
think
understanding,
That's what I thought too, but
that we could use that as a discretionary spending
Yeah, originally it was,
in the county.
wondered if we could even collect interest on it.
And
We found out that we could.
and the state auditor said that there is no rule that you cannot collect any interest on it.
so we're saying that if Kelly needs new chairs or something, we can kind of.
Sounds like.
Yeah. I think
And I
if
don't
we
have to
need
put that in my budget,
I
cause I
think if
did
we
not.
need a stool, we need a stool,
Yeah.
you know.
A7.
Okay.
So what else do we need to do as far as the budget? Are we done with it now?
Other than the levy stuff that we need to do.
Yeah, but I do have one other question. My other question is, I know that Walt has a board, so, and I know that Nate has a board, and whatever they approve at their board is what they approve. Now, is he also listed as the 3%, or does he get 5%? I just wanna clarify that,
Well,
cause I need to know.
your board agreed to go with whatever the
Whatever
county
the county went
was
with.
issued.
Okay, so it is the 3% now. Okay, I was just double checking, I didn't wanna short anybody
They
or
do have the
over anybody.
authority, if they wanted to do more, or less, they
Okay.
could. But this year they decided to go with whatever
Sure.
the county decided to go with.
Okay, that was
That's
my
been
only
history
question
for
on salary wise.
15 years. So.
That's a good catch, yeah. Okay. Is that all you need from the budget then to?
Yes,
get you
and then,
ready?
so what I need to do, so I need to upload this to the state on Friday at 4:00, is what they told me from the state. And then when I upload that, then it'll generate my stuff to the Master's Touch, which is, it throws out all the levies that were proposed
Okay,
by all entities in the county.
so when should we have a levy meeting then?
No, that goes along with your budget meeting in March 26th.
On March 26th, okay. Alright, so
And,
that'll be all.
and it also is a separate meeting as well to talk about those levies,
Right.
because it cannot be in the same with the budget.
Well, that's what I thought you meant earlier.
So you have to
I was curious
adjourn and
if we
then you
had
go
to do a
back.
separate one,
You've
because
done
we
that
talked
before.
about that last time, yeah.
So then that's where you get a lot of people coming in asking about the levies on, is it up or is it down?
So, man, today's meeting, other than talking with Rich,
I believe so.
All right, let me pull that spreadsheet up. So where you wanna go next, Chad?
Yes.
Okay, this is a spreadsheet that Sheriff McNamee put together. We talked about him increasing his population at the jail and what that would do and impact the revenue potential for the county as we talk long-term. And so this spreadsheet's a pretty good indication of the conversation and what the numbers would propose. So I'll let Rich go through that. He can give us his perspective here on the numbers, and then I think Mark had a couple of questions.
no, I think he and I pretty well got it ironed out.
Yes, so the top portion of the form is a per day analysis of inmate housing, and the bottom portion under the second green is annualized. The top portion, as you can see, is revenue for Henry County inmates, and obviously we don't gain revenue per se for inmates housed for Henry County unless they're sentenced. So I just put that at zero. Revenue for out-of-county inmates is $60 a day. And then if you go across the bar there, it's additional inmates. So that's 25, 35, 45 up to 95. So that's the incremental that you were talking about, Mark, wanting to see. So the cost per day, second line, as you go across, it's $60 a day per inmate. It's zero if we hold our 20 to 25 of our own. It's 25 on the chart. If we hold an additional 10, that's 600, and it just goes across, 1,200, 1,800 per day. Commissary revenue, we took our annual average commissary gain from those inmates, divided out by inmates, and by day, it comes to about $3 1/3 per day for commissary revenue. So, same thing, clear across, that's just calculating across for the number of inmates. The variable costs, as you see, are meals, water, consumables, female consumables at 25% of the population, because we average about 25% of our inmates are female. Inmate medical, that's the cost, $10 and change a day. Those are just calculated across. So total variable cost per day, $22.96 per inmate, and that's calculated across as well. You guys have any questions so far? So the net revenue versus the variable cost, you can see that our first 25 inmates, we're losing about $500 a day to house Henry County inmates. It costs us about $500 a day. Okay, you move that across with the additional inmates from out of county, and you can see that when we get to 45, that we're actually gaining money per day. And then as we grow in population, so grows the chart. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Our fixed cost is essentially labor. That's our fixed cost. And our annual spending for our budget of the jail is $1.43 million. On the chart that I gave you, you can see that is our fixed cost for labor. That's our total budget technically for the jail. And you can see those costs going across. So the net operating income per day, it's blacked out at the beginning because that's the basics. And then it just goes across, and you can see that every time we add an inmate from out of county, it diminishes our cost per day, our income per day. Any questions? Then you look at the second part of the chart. That's the exact same chart, just annually rather than daily. And I can go through it again if you wish, but it's kind of redundant actually. But the labor cost, the fixed labor cost, is $1,008,000. You can see that second line up, first item, $1,008,838. That's our true labor. Our total budget is over to the left just a little bit. That's $1.43 million for the jail. So the bottom line is what really matters. You know, our net operating income or loss, if we hold just in county inmates, Henry County inmates, it's gonna cost the county about $1.187 million to house Henry County inmates. We had 10 inmates from out of county, that drops that by $147,000. you keep going across. If we can hold up to 95 inmates, so holding 70 plus, it's gonna cost us $150,000 to run our jail for a year. So obviously, the jail business isn't about profit, it's about diminishing your loss. Because it's $1.4 million to run the jail. And if we house out of county inmates, we can get that cost down to $150,000. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah, so in the big scheme of things, I would have hoped that when the bond issue went through, we all knew that there would be a fixed cost to this.
Yes.
And that fixed cost would be at that $1 million no matter what, so.
No matter what. If we have 0 inmates and we just have staff there to make sure we have somebody on duty when an inmate comes in, would be $1.43 million.
Exactly. So that's a fixed cost, so anything that we do gaining revenue is a positive for all of us.
Yeah.
For the sheriff's department, and we should take a look at how we utilize those funds and encourage him to increase that population as best we can.
The more full we keep the jail, the less cost burden it is to the taxpayers of our county.
Exactly.
So the other papers I don't have on the computer, but I do have in the packets. Page 2 is what I gave you a couple weeks ago, and that's just breaking down our variable costs a little bit, toothpaste and shampoo and that kind of stuff. And then the reports after that is a report that I keep that calculates strictly revenue, and it's about 6 or 7 pages, that we brought in from other counties since we started holding in June of 2020. And then the very back pages, I think it's the last 2 pages, or maybe 3, is 3 pages, is our commissary revenue since 2019. We keep that separate. There's just no CD thing for me. I thought maybe you guys wanna look at that. We're averaging a couple $1,000 up to $10,000, depending on how many inmates we hold, in commissary revenue. So when those inmates come and spend time with us, they buy thermal socks, Oreo cookies, chips, phone calls, text messages, and as of the end of October, we're just shy of $400,000. I think currently it's about 4.25.
Is this the commissary too, these two?
I can't see what you got. Yeah, the last 3 pages is
That's
just,
also the last 3 of the commissary.
yeah, the last 3 are the commissary. It starts with this one.
Commissary phone,
Yeah, and that's commissary and phone. And I just started keeping track of that when we were getting ready to move.
and that's a running total at the bottom there,
Yes, sir, it is.
$380,000.
And the prior pages is housing, and that's a running total since June of 2020.
This is like a net profit too, or does this in?
That is our net profit, yeah. Yeah, so our commissary company, which we're in the process of entertaining a new vendor, our commissary company, they take their cut and then send us the remainder of the profit, so.
Can I get a copy of that report?
Yeah, actually,
Here,
I'll give you this.
I'll
I'll give you this one.
Cause I can print out.
Yeah, I'd like to keep this one,
No,
if that's okay.
yep, that's fine. I'll copy of that.
Here's paper.
And you can email that to me. Yeah, thanks, Rich.
Everybody wants their Oreos, huh?
They do. More than anything, it's text messaging. That's where we make a lot of revenue, is the text messaging, because our visitation room's almost obsolete. It's 6 years old, because they have iPods and they pay for iMessaging, and they can talk to their loved ones at home without them having to come into the office. And it generates quite a bit of revenue. You know, it's always in the legislature. There's always new bills passed wanting to cut that rate. And the providers for that, they always have to scramble to make adjustments to their contracts. I know with our phone contract right now, it's in limbo, because there was a law passed last year that they have to alter the per minute or per text rate. So our contract, they're looking at wanting us to renew, but we're looking at a vendor that'll do commissary and phone privileges together. And I'm hoping to get signed with them before the 1st of July. Good. Questions?
No, I think at some point though, we just need to have a discussion about the revenue side of that and see how we work that. And I don't think we've gotten anything back from Northland Securities yet to understand what our payoff is on the bond.
Okay.
Once we get that, we need to have a conversation to understand.
That's probably coming to the 7-year point
It
this
is.
summer, right?
Is there anything in his notes on that from Northland that
No, I don't.
Greg had?
Not
We'll
that
talk,
I'm
we
aware
can
of.
talk to him next week too.
Yeah, because I did ask him at the last conference to get us an update, so.
Okay.
I have a.
So you see my ISAC conference?
Yeah, they'll be
Yeah.
up there next week.
Next week?
Mhm.
Okay. If you guys have a planned session with him, I wouldn't mind joining you if you have a planned time to sit down with him, but,
We don't now, but we can once we get there.
okay.
See if he.
Yeah, you can holler at me and see.
You can call him ahead of time,
Yeah.
or Heidi, either one, Heidi.
Yeah,
or
she
Adam.
called and wanted to know if we had any actions or business that wanted to discuss with or anything like that.
That for sure.
Yeah, I'd love to.
And our annual bond payment is still 600 and some
Yeah,
thousand, right?
it is, I have it.
When does that come due? Do you remember what
It's
time of the year?
always due on December 1st,
Okay,
and it's always due, it's twice within a fiscal
June
year,
1st.
and June 1st.
so it's 3 something each time?
I'll have to look it up, just to be honest with you.
Okay. Anything else? guys? Yeah.
For me.
Thank you.
Right.
Good.
Yeah, thank
I
you very much.
appreciate
That's
that.
good information.
Yeah.
I've been studying it last night.
It's interesting. I like numbers, so it's fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rich. Anything else, Joe?
I don't have anything more.
Make a motion to adjourn.
The motion and seconded properly, all in favor of adjournment, stand up and walk out.